How's it going? Garrett with CSI. Today we're going to talk about the two different ways to block your race car using helper springs. And we don't have a race car here, so we're just pretending that this is how the shock would be sitting on the car with your blocks underneath the axle. The first way we're going to show you is using our interlocking nuts. And the advantage of doing it this way is you can independently preload your helper spring without raising the nose of the car. Some like to do it this way, some just like to float it. We have customers that are very successful doing it either way, so it's up to you. So if this was how the car was sitting, or how the shock was sitting on the car with blocks underneath it, what you would simply do, so right now I have your main ride height adjuster backed off. That's what's going to control your helper spring preload. We're going to screw down this interlock nut. So you're going to want to screw this down just till you have tension on it. Same as you would do with your ride height adjuster if you didn't have a helper spring. Right, so I want it to just where there's a little bit of tension. Then once that's done, you will screw the secondary, and the secondary is just to lock it so it doesn't move. We have little spanner wrenches you can purchase to lock those so they don't move. Some people put tape. They're designed with a taper, so they kind of lock into themselves and they're hard to move once you do it by hand. So now your main ride height is set. That's how you would block the car. Now your helper spring's just hanging out here, right? No pressure on it. It's meant to slide over those lock nuts. So now we'll bring the main collar down, and you can bring this just to touch, and that essentially has zero preload on the helper spring. If you want to go, one revolution, now you can preload that helper spring, but our main spring didn't change. So we're preloading the helper without raising the nose of the car. All right, so the second way to do this is you're gonna float the helper spring. So as you raise the front end of the car, you're preloading the helper spring. It's a little bit more of a simplistic way to do it. It doesn't give you that independent control, but we have a lot of teams that have been successful doing it that way. So we have two different helper spring sleeves. The taller sleeve is typically your right front and the shorter is your left front. The taller sleeve is for if you're running a stiffer spring, 25, 50-pound spring. You're not preloading it as much as with the shorter one, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So we have a 25-pound spring, so we're going to use the tall sleeve, and you're going to want to put it tall side up, okay? Then you're going to screw your ride height adjuster on, and put the blocks underneath your car. Again, we don't have a car, so this is going to simulate that. So now what we're going to do is we are going to screw this ride height adjuster down until we have tension on that spring, right? So that's where it's going to be. We're going to lock that down. Once that's locked down, we're going to take the shock off the bottom. Okay, we're going to take the shock off the bottom, and we're going to extend it out. We're going to slide all this stuff off. Now you're going to put your helper, so this is set. You've set your height. You're going to put your helper spring on. You're going to flip this over. Now the tall side's down. It's in the spring. Now put your spring perch back on. And now it's going to be hard to do because I don't have I can't take the block out. But now your shock is set. And so when you put it on the car, this is set, this is locked, and what will happen is, as you had that flipped over, that simulated the height of the spring. So when you get it on the car, that spring's going to be preloaded a fair bit, right? So doing it this way, the thing's naturally going to have some preload to it. As you raise your car, you're going to be adding preload and the mainspring, which raises the car. So this way it just floats. A very effective way to do it, and a little more simplistic than the locking nuts. However, if you just want to add helper spring preload and not raise the nose, you need to go the helper lock nut route.